This is the Season Long Podcast in support of the YouTube channel SeasonLongBaller. Happy to have you with us. We haven't done a podcast in a while, and this will be our season-ending wrap-up of the all-NBA teams that we had during our season. And we're doing it in our favorite format, our shooting the breeze, shooting the rock, as I'll take a few jumpers here and try to keep that shot online. Now, of course, we don't know what NBA 2K26's shooting mechanism will be, but hopefully it will. Well, I guess hopefully it'll be the same. At times, I've really struggled with the shooting on 2K25. It was much better on 2K24, and even started the season with the push release, then went with release midway through the season, and then thought I had some kind of epiphany late in the season where I kind of felt like I was seeing the release a lot better when I switched back to push. And so now I am using push, and that is what we played with for the latter part of the season. Definitely in the playoffs, we definitely went with push. So we'll be looking at the all-NBA teams. If you're new to the channel, Season Long Baller, welcome. Thank you for joining us. And if you like what we do on the channel, go ahead and give us that like and subscribe as we play the full 82-game schedule through our player build, Jaymont Summerz, which we built back on NBA 2K23. And we mirror the actual Wizards schedule. There are a few exceptions. There's been back in 2K23, I think the Detroit Pistons got stuck in Dallas. So they were unable to travel to Detroit to meet Washington for a game in, I think it was February. So I guess that would be like February of 24, I believe it was. And so the NBA had to move that game, had to postpone and move that game. So that was a time that we did not mirror the NBA schedule. The NBA Cup in the last season on NBA 2K25, the season, of course, we just completed. We did not mirror the schedule there because we ended up advancing far and winning the NBA Cup, which obviously the real Wizards did not do. But for the most part, in a couple of the live streams, we've played a couple of games in a live stream, so we would not end up mirroring the actual NBA schedule. But for the most part, we do mirror the Wizards schedule, full 82 games, 6-minute quarters, however, through October all the way through until our finals, which ended in Game 7 just 2 days ago on Saturday. And I hope you do check out that Game 7. It was very, very exciting. So what is, since we do play this whole simulation, 82 games all the way through, we do get slightly or different all-NBA teams than what you would get in real life. So taking a look at the first team all-NBA, and that would be actually looking at it, you see 4 guards made the team and only 1 center. So you've got our player build, Jaymont Summerz, who was league MVP, and we did the awards podcast back in April. That's number 72. Check that one out. And so Summerz, MVP, leads the first team All-NBA, followed by Luka, who in our simulation had not been traded. Now, on NBA 2K26, he will be a Laker, but in NBA 2K25, obviously we're independent of the actual NBA in that regard. So Luka, along with a healthy Kyrie, AD is still in LA, Luka still with the Mavericks, and Luka joins Summerz on the All-NBA team, and it's rounded out by Joker in Denver, of course. He's the only center, only big man on the team. Tyrese Halliburton of the Pacers, and then Cade Cunningham of the Detroit Pistons. So you have 4 guards on the All-NBA team, first team, and joined by Jokic. So that's that's actually pretty interesting that you have that. So your second All-NBA team, this is where the front court finally gets represented. As you see, there's only 1 guard on the second NBA team, and that is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander of the Thunder. As you notice, he's second team All-NBA, obviously not the MVP in our simulation, and they were the 8th seed out west and were eliminated by the eventual West champion Minnesota Timberwolves in our simulation. But that team is Victor Wembanyama, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Shai, as we mentioned, Anthony Davis, and Sabonis of the Kings. So you have 3 centers if you want to call Anthony Davis a center, as they are here. But we've got 3 centers, 1 forward in Giannis, and 1 guard on your All-NBA second team. Again, this is Season Long Baller, and happy to have you with us as we are doing our Shooting the Breeze, Shooting the Rock for our podcast number 73. And again, the awards where we mentioned, Rookie of the Year in our simulation, MVP, all of those awards are in podcast number 72, which is also on Spotify. So check it out on Spotify. And this is also on Spotify as well. So again, thank you for joining us for that. And again, while I'm thinking about it, thank you for joining us for the entire 82-game season. I know it's a long season. I know it doesn't sound that way, but think about how long ago October was, and think about we're not that far away from NBA 2K26 coming out and starting the new season, which will be our 4th season of Season Long Baller. So thank you very much for joining us and supporting us through the entire season. And I think it will be a very interesting season for Jaymont Summerz and the Wizards, for myself and the Wizards next season on NBA 2K26. And we'll talk about that probably, hint, hint, either a live stream where we'll do some more Shooting the Breeze, Shooting the Rock, or probably podcast number 75. That's what I'm thinking. Podcast 75. 74, if you're wondering what 74 is going to be, we'll talk about that a little later too. But 74, I already know what that was going to be. But 75, maybe that'll be where we talk about what the Wizards will be next season, most likely. It'll be after the actual NBA draft, so we'll have a little bit of a better idea. And then the other part of that is we may look at all the teammates that we've had for the Wizards. The longest tenured guy was Kyle Kuzma, but obviously he's now on the Milwaukee Bucks. That's where he'll be on NBA 2K26. And that means that pretty much the entire starting unit that I had when we started on NBA 2K23 is now gone from the Wizards. So it'll almost look like Summerz is the vet, if you know what I'm saying. The All-NBA third team has more of a balanced-looking lineup. LaMelo Ball and Ja Morant, along with Damian Lillard, 3 guards. But at least you have Jason Tatum at a forward and Bam Adebayo of the Miami Heat in the middle. And that rounds out your All-NBA first, second, and third teams. All right, so we'll take a look at 2 more teams as I continue to shoot around. And the shot feels a lot better now, of course. I mean, too late now, season's over. But again, as I mentioned earlier, I switched to push as my release, and we will do some more live streams. Probably do some maybe scrimmaging some all-time teams, or may scrimmage for the last few times people like Kyle Kuzma on the roster, because as you know, the Wizards really made a big roster makeover prior to the trade deadline, during the trade deadline. Kyle Kuzma out, Jonas Valanciunas was traded. Marcus Smart, Chris Middleton were brought in. Even some of the lower ends of the bench, where Johnny Davis and Patrick Baldwin were also traded by the Wizards. So overall, I think Holmes, I was trying to remember if Rashawn Holmes, I think he was traded, but it ended up being 6 Wizards were moved, and that's a drastic roster change. So if I run a scrimmage with the Wizards, it's going to be a drastic difference in terms of what you will see now and what you will see in the fall when we start playing on NBA 2K26. So now let's go to the All-NBA defensive first team. And you were talking earlier about the All-NBA team having no centers, having 1 center and 4 guards. Well, the All-NBA defensive first team in our simulation had no guards. Not a single guard on this first team. Wemby, Giannis, Adebayo, Evan Mobley, and AD, Anthony Davis, are your 5. So basically 3 centers and 2 forwards, or 3 forwards and 2 centers if you consider Anthony Davis a forward, as Anthony Davis considers himself a forward, or at least wants to be a forward. But yeah, so again, no guards. So that's crazy for the All-NBA first defensive team. And then what's even more surprising, check out the All-NBA defensive second team. All centers and 1 guard. 4 centers and 1 guard. And then the one guard is me. That is crazy. Now, I was amazed last season when I was first team All-NBA defense. And, I joked about that all offseason when we were doing our blacktop. And we'll talk about what we're doing blacktop here in a bit for over the summer. But I was amazed by that. So now, we didn't make first team this time, but we made second team. And we're the only perimeter defender on 2 teams. Which basically now when you take first and second team together, and again, depending on how you look at Anthony Davis, they have him listed as a center. You have 7 centers on the 2 All-NBA teams, 2 forwards, and 1 guard, and that's me. So your center, so your All-NBA second team is Nicholas Claxton of the Nets, Rudy Gobert of the Wolves, Chet Holmgren of the Thunder, and Joel Embiid of the 76ers. And, of course, Embiid was healthy in our simulation. And then, of course, our player build, me, Jaymont Summerz, the only guard on the team. Although I do take a little bit of pride in being on the first team All-NBA last season on NBA 2K24 and on the second team All-NBA defensive team this season. So that rounds out all of your All-NBA teams. And let's take a look at what we've got coming up in the offseason here on Season Long Baller. So we're going to do King of the Court. That's going to start next Monday, where we take, where we're basically doing King of the Mountain. We're a 90. We'll start playing with guys that are like a 80, 85, a 90. We'll work our way up. And on 5 weeks from now, hopefully on Monday, we will be playing someone who is like a 99. We'll have to make adjustments. We'll see. But we'll play someone who is definitely better than we are. We'll have some live streams coming up as well. And then podcast number 74, which is coming up later this summer, that will be our player progression. Summerz started this season as a 90. What will he be when we go into NBA 2K26? That's what we'll answer on podcast number 74 coming up later this summer. That's going to do it for Season Long Baller. Thank you for joining us. And again, thank you for your support all season. We will see you next Monday for the opening of King of the Court. We will take on someone who is rated an 80 and probably about 6'5"-ish, which is our height. So think about that. Who do you think we will be playing that's an 80 overall? Last year, they weren't 6'5", but last year we did play Colin Sexton of the Jazz. I don't think he's 6'5", but he was an 80 last season. This season, it's not going to be Colin Sexton. But I will give you, let's see, do I have a good hint that just won't give it away? 6'5", you've definitely seen him play in our simulation. I will say that. So if you've watched our games this season, you've definitely seen this player. And I know it sounds easy because we've played everybody in the league, but you've seen this player probably a little bit more than some other, well, definitely more than some other players in the league. But that's the best hint I can give you right now. I know that's entirely vague, but that's the best hint. But you will see who it is. The answer will be on Monday when we start King of the Court. That's it for Season Long Baller. Thank you very much for watching. If you like what we do on the channel, go ahead and give us that like and subscribe. It is much appreciated. Much love. Peace.